allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Munger, the roll call, please.
Mrs. Bartle and Mr. Densler are absent.
Okay. Number 4, audience participation. I think we have a few online, and
I think we're actually just down to 2 people. There's one on the call right now, caller whose phone number ends with 15 would want to unmute.
okay, caller 15, I'd like to unmute your phone and please state your name and address for the record and go ahead.
My name's Amanda McCarthy, 50014 South Forest Road, Chesterfield, Michigan, 48047.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yes. I just wanted to say thank you to Lakeshore for the opportunity to serve with each of you. And I wanted to give a really great shout out to all of the people that I've worked with during my time at Lakeshore and their exceptional leadership, especially George Lewis and Fran Hubert. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much. Okay. That's the only caller? Okay, anybody in the audience, do we have audience participation? Yes. You're up.
Becky, are you speaking?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, then I think we are done with that. We will move on. We will move on to number 5, the superintendent's report. Dr. Joseph Antonio.
Thank you. I have just a handful of items to talk about. Begin with just to recognize the passing of Jim Nielsen. Jim was a custodian at Rogers and served also the Board of Education for a number of years. And in this past month, we've lost a handful of Shoreans for one reason or another. And of course, Jim, most closely impacts our staff because he was on our staff. And so we just ask everyone to keep Jim and his family in your thoughts and prayers as they go through this difficult time. Tonight, we're going to have a couple presentations that I'm particularly excited and proud of. And first, well, I don't know if it's first, but along the lines will be Dr. Lewis talking about the contract, which will be presented to the board for your approval. This contract, at the end of it, will represent 7 consecutive years of on-scale, unconditional wage increases, and 8 out of the 10 past years that staff will have received on-scale step increases that are not tied to any conditions. And at the top of the pay scale, at the end of this contract, it will mark the first time in over a decade that there's been consecutive years of wage increases at the top, as well as increases 3 of the past 4 years once this contract concludes. And so I think it's a testament to the investment that this board has made, the strong relationship that exists between LSFT and the negotiating team, which was led by Dr. Lewis. And of course, Rochelle had parts in that, and Pete had parts in that, and Todd Stevens over at the high school added to that team, but also on the union side of things, that really it was working to achieve a goal, And so it's a start. It's not where we want to be, but it certainly moves us in the right direction. It protects the fiscal well-being of the district, and it certainly supports our most valuable asset from a resource standpoint, which is our human resources. The other presentation that you'll be hearing tonight is in regards to recovery. As we move past the pandemic and we move, we're bringing kids in on a more frequent basis, and we're trying to re-engage kids after a long, difficult year, actually longer than a long, difficult year by the time this is all said and done. How do we get kids back in? How do we make people feel comfortable? How do we re-engage when people have worked remotely for so very long? And one of the things that you'll be hearing me emphasize over and over again is that we will be measuring our success moving forward over the course of this next year in terms of smiles and laughter, and not necessarily reading scores or math scores. I firmly believe that the re-engagement, if done properly, will lead to academic improvement with our students. And actually, I think you'll find in the presentation tonight that that this discussion of learning loss is not as much of a concern as we might have expected. But certainly the social and emotional and the lack of engagement, that loss for our students and for our staff is something that is at the top of our concerns. So the more we can get kids to smile, the more we can get kids to laugh, the more we can get staff to smile, the more we can get staff to laugh, the better Lakeshore will be in the long run. So that'll be a presentation that's coming up. And then finally, I just want to remind everyone that actually a couple cool things. Actually, I know I'm going to steal a little bit of your thunder, but I can't not mention that in the first time in the storied history of Lakeshore Public Schools, we have our first individual state champion, Danny DeCrute, who was bowling state champ, Division II state champ. And of all of our sports, she is the first individual state champion in the history of the school district. So congratulations to Danny. What a huge accomplishment. And then two last things. Wednesday night, virtual kindergarten roundup. Hopefully it's the last time that we have a virtual kindergarten roundup. But we're excited about what's going to be taking place there. Shannon and her team have put together some really cool stuff. And for those families that have not yet signed up for it, we have a little viewing party pack that they can get. So as they're watching the virtual kindergarten roundup, they'll have some stuff, some goodies, swag bag type stuff to go along with that event. And of course, Saturday, Lakeshore High School baseball will be competing down at Comerica Park. 7 p.m., I believe, is the game time. So, with all of our athletics, we want to compete in big games and big locations, big venues, and give our kids memories of a lifetime. And so for those kids on the baseball team, we look forward to seeing them out there at Comerica Saturday night. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
My audience participation. This is the longest too. So.
Sorry. There you go. Sorry.
No questions? Okay, we'll move on to 6A, resolution recognizing Employee Appreciation Week. Move to adopt a resolution recognizing Lakeshore Public Schools employees for their contributions and efforts to our schools. Now, therefore, be it resolved that May 3rd through the 7th, 2021 will be declared Lakeshore Public Schools Employee Recognition Week, honoring our dedicated secretaries, paraprofessionals, support staff, teachers, maintenance and custodial staff, food service, transportation staff, and non-unit staff members. Anybody have any questions or comments? Done? A well-deserved week. I think you guys should get a month for this. You guys have done a great job. Everything is very much appreciated. I know it makes our life up here a lot easier and better knowing that you guys are out there working hard and your dedication to Lakeshore and its family. And I have seen and met with quite a few people this month for some reason. People were just coming up and talking to me about the fine job everybody is doing, how they're happy with the way the hybrid has gone, the way the online learning has gone. And that's a tribute to everything everybody's doing. So thank you, and we'll just call May the whole month for you guys. Do I need a roll call for this? Can I have a roll call, Mrs. Unger?
Mr. Densler is absent. Mrs. Bartle is absent. Mr. Colling. Aye. Mrs. Thomas August. Aye. Mrs. Munger, aye. Mrs. DeLong. Aye. And Mr. Ziegler.
Aye. Down to number 7, presentation 7A, Lakeshore COVID recovery. Ms. Rachel.
Thank you. I'm just pulling up the presentation here for you so people at home can see this as well as those of you on the board. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you our pandemic recovery, part of which is already in place and part of which is under development for our future plans. We're going to take the approach of where we've been, where we are now, and where we are going as we examine this recovery plan. I just want to begin with a quick note on the term learning loss. Dr. DePonio did reference it. I've provided some interesting quotes from Stacy Hsu, who's the Director of Professional Learning at Michigan Virtual. She wrote a blog post several weeks ago addressing this particular term. And I thought the quotes served our conversation very well and also applied to what we believe learning is at Lakeshore. So I will agree with Ms. Hsu when she says that the term loss implies that kids aren't learning, and she vehemently disagrees with that assertion. And I want to say I echo that wholeheartedly. But it's really the next one that I think applies most specifically to us at Lakeshore. And I wanted to set that as the tone and a reminder of our 21st century learning skills and what our focus for our graduates are. So her quote is an education about acquiring skills to work through challenges, to think critically, to ask for help when you need it. And if those are what education is about, she thinks her children have not lost, but rather gained new perspectives to face the future challenges. You know, when we referred to these as 21st century skills, we hadn't imagined pandemic as the way to address why these skills were necessary. But as we look at our 21st century standards-based outcomes that we want to see for our graduates, every single one of these skills are something that we have had to, as adults, exhibit during this time. And so to focus on those and have our students have a real world opportunity to be developing these goes to that, what have they gained, not just what have they potentially lost. So we're going to start with where have we been? Sometimes this timeline can be a little scary and overwhelming when you think about the fact that it has been 13 and a half months at this point, and boy, what a journey it's been. So there's some highlighted dates and then some things that pertain specifically to what we have done here in Lakeshore. Just a reminder that the governor's orders came in telling us that on March 16th, our schools would need to close down for 2 years, or for 2 weeks. That was not, what, 2 weeks, sorry, let me give it, 2 weeks. I know. Dear Governor Whitmer, please do not harass her. She did not say that. That was a mistake on my part. March 16th, 2020, governor orders school shut down for 2 weeks. Here's the part that I'm so appreciative of. We at Lakeshore were prepared to pivot. The first reason we're prepared to pivot, and I keep saying this, thank you, community. Thank you for the bond that you passed and the leadership that was in place that determined what were the priorities for those bonds. And it's almost again like it was a roadmap for what we may need in a situation like this. To have one-to-one technology with the infrastructure to support it, with the training for our teachers on what that meant, on already having a shared and being trained on a learning management system, on having our buildings updated so that our air return systems and our functioning systems were up to date. We literally were in a case that most school districts across the country were not. And what that allowed us to do is our first question to be, how are our families and what do they need? Dr. DePonio messaged all of us, and our marching orders were in that first week, every family, every student accounted for. Not just do they have their one-to-one technology, not just do they have access to Wi-Fi, although those were all really important because we wanted learning to continue. The questions were, and they continue to be, do you have food? Do you have a place to stay? Are you able to get to your job? What other resources do you need that we can assist and connect you with? And that process, the multi-tiered system of support that goes beyond academics, that was instituted that day is the most important thing and the thing I'm most proud of, not just for Dr. DePonio having that vision, but for our staff working tirelessly from that day until now to continue to make that our focus. On March 20th, the then Betsy DeVos, Secretary of Education, waived our standardized testing. For us, that was the freedom to really be focusing on instruction for our students and delivery while they were remote. It's set up for the April 2nd announcement that schools would remain closed for the remainder of 2020. I want to be clear on my dates here. For the remainder of 2020, our teachers continue to not only provide support, but also deliver instruction because we were in a position to not be in a holding pattern, but to continue the learning process with our students. Just a note, and I'm going to say this several times, but the importance of the partnership with our teaching staff and our support staff, we couldn't do this without them. So the reason they're so tired is that even during their spring break last year, our teachers didn't shut down and say, sorry, it's my spring break. They remained in contact with their families and students who needed that support and remained available to them, even though it was their spring break. And that mindset continued through the rest of the emergency remote learning through the end of June or the middle of June, which ended our March or 2020 school year. On June 30th, the governor released the return to learn plan requirements that every district had to put in place to be approved by their school board and then sent to the state. Before that official release, Dr. DePonio had already begun the work by having community conversations, which took place in backyards and outside our pavilion, as you guys know, and online. As soon as the plan was released, you guys have heard at length in many hours the work that went into the Return to Learn plan that we presented to you. And once again, I just want to acknowledge the teacher leadership that happened. They did not, for most of them, take a break over the summer. They worked tirelessly on that plan so that they could feel comfortable that when they were back in front of their students, they had the plan to keep them safe and to have instructional delivery. You guys approved our plan on August 12th. We excitedly welcomed back our students, opened the first day of school, which most districts did not in our area, on September 8th. We chose to have a slow return, bringing A, B, C, and D kids in once a week for limited hours to make sure this plan that we had was able to be safely delivered. Another note that this instructional delivery, whether people chose virtual, hybrid, or a combination, that the teachers developed what the way those would look. So weekly meetings, how the learning management systems were consistent to support students and families, sharing that out as teacher leaders, developing those frameworks, and then working on that slow incremental steps to ensure the plan happened. We were moving along, got back to an A and B hybrid cohort, and we're actively working on when do we combine cohorts? So we just have an A cohort, and also when do we offer our families the opportunity to choose to come back if they had chosen virtual? While we were working on those plans, cases started to go up again. We slowed those conversations. On November 18th, the governor closes high schools for 3 weeks. We also implement a 1-week remote pause to take place after Thanksgiving and Christmas. The idea was to possibly slow the number of quarantines that we might experience with the anticipated increased cases after those holidays. In January, we delivered our mid-year benchmark assessments, K-8. We do those every year anyway, but this was part of the state requirement where the legislatures are having us report benchmark assessments as a way of monitoring learning. I'll share what those results are in just a moment. February 1st, which was the new semester at the secondary, is when we had families make another choice, whether they wanted to come back to in-person or go to virtual. With those numbers set, we then set a goal for when we could combine the cohorts of February 17th. There was a lot of logistics to work through. So we set that date as a goal so we could work through any potential problems. That resulted in March 8th, our students returning in combined cohorts. They are now in 4 days a week, getting instruction. And the last major success, April 20th, which was just last week, busing resumed for our students. Throughout it all, the major question continues to be, what do our families need? And that is the support we will continue to provide. When we look at our scores, and again, talk about learning loss, we can see that our students continue to grow. NWA has been used by the districts for many years as a benchmark assessment. When we look at where we were at in fall of 2019 and compare it with the winter midterm assessment, mid-year assessment of 2021, you will see in math, we have an increase of 4.21%. And then in reading, we have an increase of 7%. Now, the reason we chose those dates is because it covers both the emergency remote learning of last spring, as well as the return to learning this fall. It's consistent in benchmark assessments we've been given, and it does demonstrate, very comparatively to others, students are gaining more in literacy than they are in math. Confirms where we need to have some focus, but also we know that this is a district average and there are students, nobody's an average. So those students that aren't increasing in this way and do have more challenges, we already have a multi-tiered system of support in place, and that has never stopped being operational. So our interventionists, our title staff, our support services, those shifted also to being delivered both virtually and in person. And those students that individually need more intervention and support, we are able to continue to provide that. Where we're at, we continue our focus on our whole child. You're going to hear the term social and emotional learning a lot. The 5 components of that are self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. That will continue to be our focus because without those skills, students don't have what they need to actually acquire the academic learning. We're excited about the recovery already in progress. Currently, we continue our family outreach with food, assistance, personalized plans for academic success. We're providing instructional learning kits, and I think you guys have seen the pictures of the recess bags, how exciting those were for students. We decided to keep Mondays remote, and that's because we're delivering our own virtual instruction. We needed to be able to support those students as we ask our staff to do double duty. We also anticipated an increase in quarantines even before the rise in COVID cases, and that provides an opportunity for our staff to make sure that while students are quarantined, they have the opportunity to be attending office hours, have synchronous instruction, and still have that connection to school, so we're not dealing with a loss of connection. Most importantly, in March, we started our extending learning opportunities. Each level designed a plan that worked for their needs. So at Lakeshore High School, they instituted TOP, which is a testing out program. Many years ago, the legislature approved a plan that students could earn credit not for time spent in a seat, but by demonstrating their knowledge of content. Teachers at the high school took advantage of this by working individually with students who were interested to develop alternate ways that they could demonstrate the learning that they had to replace those credits that they were missing. The program includes teachers and students working together to create what that learning will look like, supported virtual and in-person throughout the process, and then the opportunity to present that alternate assessment at the end of the program so that students may earn credit. In Northlake, they already have an alternative program, so they felt like the best way to meet their kids' needs was to provide in-person and virtual tutoring. This is happening mostly at night because we know our student population is working and is not available during normal hours. So those teachers knew that this was the best way to meet their students. At Kennedy Middle School, they've implemented extended project-based learning for our core classes, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So students are able to engage in project-based learning and demonstrate their understanding of the classes that they had difficulty with or didn't have passing mastery as they work through those issues. At the elementary, it's very enrichment focused. If we go back to SEL being our primary focus, and Dr. Bonio's, we're going to measure success in smiles and laughter. If you look at that picture, that is one of our programs called Build It Up, Knock It Down, where students have different materials where they build and see what can be designed and what is able to withstand as a structure, and then have fun knocking it down and planning over again. They're having roller skating, they're having Harry Potter reading clubs, they're having gardening clubs. And if you could see the smiles through the masks and the excitement as these kids work together, it is well worth it. Summer is going to be a very similar program in that we will provide academic support, some of which is traditional, but we also are doing teacher-created enrichment. So similar to our elementary enrichment, teachers were offered the opportunity, what is it that you're passionate about that you want to share with students? So we have a K-12 drama program. We have music programs. We have sports camps. You guys know more than anyone, our kids have not been on field trips for a year and a half. So one of our most exciting opportunities is a Discover the D weekly field trip. We are so excited that teachers, even with as much as they put in, were willing to take the time to design these programs and to spend the time with our students this summer. Family support will continue through food services, and we are designing with teachers summer learning kits to provide that balance of continued academic access, but also maybe some get them out and start playing and enjoying one another and finding the balance between the two. If we knew then, when we created the plans, we may have done some things different. So we just want to reflect on, there's a lot of things that have gone well. There's a lot of things we still have questions about. In the Return to Learn plan, I can't imagine having pulled it out without our teachers. But our teachers are tired because our teachers have not had a break. They have not had a break. They're tired. And part of that was all the work that they put into the Return to Learning plan. Delivering our own virtual instruction. On the positive side, we were ready. We could do it. We have trained staff. We have the resources. On the negative side, having dual responsibility is tough. And in pandemic times, when people really are struggling with how much they're doing, sometimes it looks like the grass is greener on the other side. So when you have your own virtual and your own hybrid, there's some internal questions about whose position may be the most challenging. The slow phase-in allowed us to be very careful and make sure our plan worked, but it also may have resulted in taking longer to combine cohorts or get kids back in, right? We'll know that later, maybe. Distancing, it was recommended 6 feet, but you could have gone 3 feet. We chose to stay 6 feet. Again, it's another thing where now those recommendations are changing. Maybe 3 feet would be okay. Maybe kids would have been in sooner. But you don't know when they're giving us recommendation. Cleaning protocols have changed. We don't have to clean. We know surfaces differently probably don't spread things. Professional development was offered as choices. We provided it, things were there, but we also were flexible with how challenging their particular role was. On the flip side, that PD was planned because there were specific things that could help them address those challenges. So, you know, one way or the other. I don't know that we would have changed anything, but these are certainly things that as we reflect, we continue to look at. We have to look at what things maybe we didn't do as well as we could, because there's going to be similar challenges next year. We certainly have to apply what we've learned. Where we're going is the most exciting part. Dr. DePony already stole the fun of my big slide and how we're going to measure success. I put all this together, was so excited. You guys already know we're measuring success through smiles and laughter. And obviously these are pictures from years before as you look at these beautiful smiles. In all fairness, I will tell you that the gentleman on the top right is my dad, who comes in on Veterans Day, and his smile on those days is just as big as the kids. And I would like our community involvement to have those smiles and laughter again too. The point here is that we already know how to measure academic growth. We're well trained to do that. We really need in this return to see our kids back to participating and healthy. So in the 21-22 school year, social emotional learning is going to be our primary focus. Administrators and teacher leaders will facilitate that focused work. One of the things that we're looking at is recovery positions, some that will be reimagining of what we already have, some that will be using specialized grant funds. Some things we've identified as possibilities as an additional administrative position called a district administrative liaison. We have a need for someone to be more focused on data systems and delivering the data that we need in multiple ways in order for the recovery to really be successful. Before and after school summer programming, I don't know if you guys know this, but all of the programming we're doing takes a lot of time to figure out. And we know that's going to be a focus in the next couple of years. We also have a need at the elementary for just additional support in the buildings. The needs are more, they only have one person, and having an additional person available would certainly help. At the elementary, we're looking at some coaching and different ways of offering support with an MTSS coordinator. Right now, that position is shared with TCs, teaching consultants, and we really need our teaching consultants freed up to be doing other things. So designating a person for that would make it more effective in identifying and supporting those students. There's an elementary educator on loan, which is really a literacy coach. The legislature last year put additional money in to support the Read by Third Grade law. This is in partnership with the ISD, so that position would mostly be covered through those funds or additional grant funding. And then as we've seen with math, we're already as a district focused on a plan for how we build the numeracy skills of our elementary teachers the same way we build literacy skills. And so we have people who have been in training to deliver that type of training and support, and a math coach across the district would certainly help. At the secondary level, we really need to reimagine intervention, how that staff and what it means and the constraints of a very tight secondary schedule and requirements with credit. We also need to look at implementing our positivity project and other SEL, again, with the constraints, especially at the high school, what the reality of a credit-bearing master schedule means and what we assign to teachers versus the support we provide. All of that will be supported with processing, planning, and professional development. So we once again will partner with Communications by Design, and how we reimagine this will be done through facilitated work with administrative retreats and a teacher leader retreat. We will start the year with training on social emotional learning so that everyone in the district understands what that means, what those components are, what it looks like in the classroom. And then in order to continue to engage our students, our professional learning for our first 2 district PD days will be an engagement and will be a facilitated course, again, with CBD to help us get real practical skills related to SEL and how to engage our students through this recovery. That's it. I could go on, but for time's sake, we'll let it go at that.
Are there any questions, comments? Well, Ms. Weincoop, your presentation shows a dedication and commitment that our staff and community has served Lakeshore District, and they all should be proud. I, for one, believe that Lakeshore is a step above most other districts. I've been told this by members out in the community. So again, hats off to everybody that's worked very hard, and it's proud to be a Shorean.
Me too.
Do I need to go? Oh, no. Okay. We'll move on to item 8A, consent agenda. Would anybody like to approve that? Approved by Mr. Long, supported by Mr. Collins. Any questions or corrections? Comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Ziegler.
Aye.
Mrs. Munger, aye. Mrs. DeLong. Mrs. Thomas August. Mr. Colling. Mrs. Bartle and Mr. Densler are absent.
Okay, we'll move on to, let's see, that was 8A, I believe. 8B. And we have an 8C. I have an 8C. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
8C is a personnel report. Oh, I'm sorry, 8B, confirmation of COVID-19 learning plan for the 2020-21 school year.
Rochelle.
I know, I already talked a lot. You were ready to go right over me, Kurt. I don't blame you. I will make this one quick. We are not recommending any changes to our current plan, which is 4 days a week of combined cohorts for our in-person instruction, Mondays remaining synchronous and asynchronous remote. Our two-way interactions, we are required to report. So the 25th week, which is 310 through 316, we had a 91% two-way communication report percentage. Week 26, we had a 90% two-way communication percentage. And week 27, we had an 89%. I do want to note that for weeks 28 and 29, two-way communication is not reported. We were given late notification this year that any week that does not have more than 2 days of assigned instruction does not need to count for two-way communication. So all those funky weeks we did with our other breaks, we now do not have to do, which again, anything that can take some stress off of our teachers for that report. So weeks 28 and 29, we will not report. We will start the report next week with week 30, and that is the only update on the confirmation of learning.
Motion to
Support.
moved by Ms. DeLong and supported by Ms. Munger. Any questions? Comments? Okay, we'll move to 8C, personnel report.
We got a roll call.
I'm sorry, roll call.
Mrs. DeLong. Aye. Mrs. Munger, aye. Mr. Ziegler.
Aye.
Mr. Colling. Aye. And Mrs. Thomas August. Aye. Mr. Densler and Mrs. Bartle are absent.
Thank you. 8C, personnel report, Dr. George Lewis.
Move to improve the following personnel report, non-unit. Move to approve the employment of Deb Rampala, SAC School-Age Child Care Multi-Site Coordinator, effective April 19th, 2021, at an hourly rate of $15.75. In order to make that happen, move to accept the resignation from the Lakeshore Federation of Support Staff, Deb Rampala, SAC Caregiver, Violet Elementary, effective April 16th, 2021. Move to approve the employment from the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, otherwise known as AFSCME. Mary Sarah Casson, kitchen helper, Violet Elementary. March 25th at step 1. Lakeshore Federation of Teachers moved to accept a general leave of absence for the 2021 school year. Rebecca Wentworth, English teacher at Kennedy Middle School. This will be effective May 17th, 2021, and it will run until the end of the school year. And from the Lakeshore Federation of Teachers, moved to accept the resignation of Amanda McCarthy, elementary library media teacher, district-wide resignation effective June 18th, 2021.
Thank you. May I have a motion? Motion made by Mr. Colling, supported by Ms. DeLong. Any questions or comments? Okay, we'll move on to a roll call, is what we're going to move on to.
Aye. Mr. Ziegler.
Aye.
Mrs. Munger. Aye. Mr. DeLong. Aye. Mr. Colling. Aye. Mrs. Bartle and Mr. Denzler. Aye.
Okay, well, we'll move to 8D, the ratification of agreement of Lakeshore Federation of Teachers, Local 1465. Dr. Lewis.
I'm pleased to bring before the board tonight and recommend that the Lakeshore Public Schools Board of Education approve a tentative agreement with the Lakeshore Federation of Teachers, Local 1465. We have been negotiating with the teachers. The teachers and the board negotiating team signed a tentative agreement. The teachers ratified the tentative agreement on April 23rd, 2021 on a 2-year contract.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Support.
A motion by Mrs. DeLong, supported by Mrs. Munger. Are there any comments, questions?
Yeah, just a point of information for the revised school code, section 380-1203. I need to abstain from this vote, given that my mother is a teacher in the district.
Thank you, Mr. Collins.
I did have a question. Is there a change in the hours of secondary in the high school, or I don't know if that was something that was proposed in the meeting, but I don't.
No, there is.
The attachment of the.
There is no change in the number of instructional minutes or hours. There are some wordsmithing changes that were done that cleaned up some language regarding teacher report time and teacher end of the day time, but no change in instructional time.
As I read through that agreement, there's several things that were added that I thought were very good. I like the mentor program. I thought that was that's going to go over very well. We have a lot of good teachers, and for them to help the teachers coming in will be a great benefit there. Anybody else? Have a roll call, please, Ms. Munger.
So, Mrs. DeLong. Aye. Mrs. Thomas August. Aye. Mrs. Munger. Aye. Mr. Colling. Abstain. And Mr. Ziegler.
Aye.
And Mrs. Bartle and Mr. Denzler are absent.
Thank you. Move to, sorry. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Dr. Lewis, we have a letter from the teachers.
Yeah, I've been asked by Lakeshore Federation of Teachers President Fred Shaheen to read a letter because he was not able to join us, but he is watching tonight, and I know that many of his members are. So this is to the Board of Education from Mr. Shaheen. He says that on behalf of the Lakeshore Federation of Teachers, I would like to thank all of you for your commitment to working with us to craft a contract that addresses concerns of our membership. During the negotiations, there was intense discussion and clarification of important issues. We added important provisions pertaining to mentor teachers, professional improvement in teaching environments, Clarifications were also made as to the duties of counselors and social workers, hours of the school day at various levels. Changes were also made in regard to student discipline and Schedule C that created committees of teachers and administrators to review these items on a yearly basis. Also added was experience pay, perfect attendance bonuses, and stipends for attendance at organizational meetings. As with any negotiation, there were compromises on proposals that were offered on both sides. All in all, it was a successful negotiation, and we look forward to future negotiations that continue to improve the opportunities for students in the district and address the concerns of our teachers. In addition to ratifying the contract, members also elected executive council members to serve for the 2021-22 school year. Mr. Shaheen would like to congratulate the Federation's new president, Misty Ryan. He says that Misty is a strong advocate for teachers and students alike and will surely continue the positive relationship that the LSFT has had with the district. A complete list of board members will be attached for your review. He says, thank you again for the respect and consideration you have shown to the Lakeshore Federation of Teachers, Local 1465. Sincerely, Frederick Shaheen, LSFT 1465 President.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Thank you, Mr. Shaheen and the Federation of Teachers. Okay, well, we will move on to 8F, non-unit contract extensions with Dr. George Lewis.
We ask that the board move to approve the extension of certain administrative employee contracts as recommended by the Department of Employee Services.
Support.
Motion by Mrs. DeLong, supported by Mr. Collins. Are there any questions? Comments? The non-unit is, should I read the names for this? Or,
This would include our building principals, central office staff, assistant superintendents, our chief financial officer, our directors of special ed, our director of special programming, our director of facilities, director of technology.
okay. No questions or comments? Roll call, Mrs. I'm sorry.
Is there anything else needed besides just the contract being extended?
No, there's no change to the contracts, just an extension.
Thank you. Roll call, Mrs. Munger.
Mr. Ziegler.
Aye.
Mr. Collins. Mrs. DeLong. Mrs. Thomas August. And Mrs. Munger. Aye. Mr. Bartle, Mrs. Bartle, and Mrs. Denzler are absent.
Okay, we'll move on to 8F, change of date for the June Board of Education meeting. We recommend the change of the date of the June Board of Education meeting to Tuesday, June 29th, 2021. We are moving this because it's a conflict with the Lakeshore Foundation of Education yearly golf outing. It's a great outing, raises money for the foundation, which in turn goes back into our schools. Have a motion, okay. Motion by Mrs. Munger, supported by Mr. Colleen. Any questions? Any comments? Okay. We have a roll call.
Mrs. Munger. Aye. Mrs. Thomas August. Aye. Mr. Ziegler.
Aye.
Mrs. DeLong. Mr. Collins.
Aye.
Bartle and Mr. Denzler are absent.
Thank you. Moving on to 9A, board commentary. We'll start with Mrs. Amy Thomas August.
Okay, so good evening. I just wanted to say bravo to all the students who have been participating in the Shoreans Got Talent performances that have been posted on Facebook this last month. I've enjoyed watching them all, and there's a lot of talent within Lakeshore's community. And while I'm very grateful for all the amazing staff members in Lakeshore, especially during this past year when everyone played a crucial role during the pandemic, tonight I wanted to express my appreciation to the Lakeshore teachers as we recognize Staff Appreciation Week from May 3rd to May 7th. I believe everyone can think back to their own childhood and name a teacher who was an encourager, a listener, a supporter, a teacher who reassured your efforts and cheered your successes. An exceptional teacher can play a critical role in inspiring and nurturing growth among students, truly making a long-lasting impression. And Lakeshore Public Schools has many exceptional teachers, even teachers that I can remember from my own childhood growing up in the Lakeshore community. And this evening, I want to thank all the teachers that we have currently and in the past for making a difference in all the students' lives of Lakeshore. And I want to thank the Lakeshore Federation of Teachers who agreed to a tentative agreement.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Colleen.
Let me unmute here. All right. I certainly second all of those comments and extend that appreciation of all of our teachers and all of our staff during this time. Thank you all for your hard work. As of course, as you just heard, we have our golf outing for the Lakeshore Foundation on June 28th. That golf outing, as many of you know, is named after the late Leonard Palomino. So I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize that his daughter Patty, who served on the Lakeshore Foundation board for a long time, passed away at the end of March. She was a wonderful person to work with, just a joy to be around, and obviously she served and was very, very passionate about Lakeshore in this community. So that's a huge loss, as well as, of course, unfortunately, our other foundation board member, Madeline Cudney, lost her husband, Bill, very recently as well. So please keep the foundation, family, friends of those in your thoughts and prayers, as well as, of course, Mr. Nielsen as well. So it's been a very difficult year. So please keep everyone in your thoughts and prayers. And with that somber note, I will turn it over to Ms. DeLong.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, Dr. Toponio stole a little bit of my thunder, but that's okay. It is well deserved. Our bowling program was a bit different this year, but we made it through the season, and we were very thankful for that. And we had a lot of accolades. Jim is also part of the MHSIBCA board, and he went to a recent meeting and he said, our name's out there. The schools they're recognizing us, and they're a little bit fearful of our team. So that's a good thing. I also want to give a shout out to Coach Greg Villasorda. He was named Girls Coach of the Year by the MHSIBCA. And of course, Danny, it just goes without saying, we're really going to miss her. And it was quite the match to watch. In order to become the state champion, she had to beat 3 Flint Kersley girls. And one of the moms from our team made her a T-shirt that said "The Kersley Killer" because she took out 3 of them. So it was really cute. And my JV girls came in first again, so I'm very proud of them. Yes, I kind of second Daniel. We've had a lot of notices lately of people losing family members. So please keep everybody in our Lakeshore community who has lost someone in their thoughts and prayers. I've said this before. Thank you to the teachers and the staff for this past 13 and a half months. I know it's been very crazy for all of us. I know everybody has worked tirelessly. I'm sure everybody's looking forward to the end of the school year, and hopefully everybody will get some rest this summer. I do want to give a special shout out, thank you to Coach T. I was having a really rough week last week. It was the year since my mom had passed, and I was having a difficult time, and she knew that. And out of the blue, she sent me this very nice planter. that was waiting on my doorstep the next day. And I truly appreciate that. And it's just, again, I'm always blown away and humbled by how much this Lakeshore community just rallies around each other. And kudos to everybody. And thank you, teachers, for, ratifying the tentative agreement. And we truly appreciate all of your hard work. And I hope everybody has a good evening. Thank you.
Mrs. Munger.
Well, good evening. I am always excited to see the Slurpee Awards, and so some of the awards were awarded for having positive attitude, a love of learning, optimism and helpfulness, identifying the good in others, and dedication. And while those aren't necessarily things that standardized testing score, they make wonderful children and wonderful adults in the future. So those are great things to be awarded. It was wonderful. Thank you for the presentation, Rochelle, to see that our scores are actually improved, that students didn't learn nothing while they were gone, technically from a building of school, that they still were learning and again, just creating new skills to make better humans in the future. So I did want to say to Madeline Cudney and to anyone who's of our families that have lost, our Shorian families that has lost someone recently, prayers and our thoughts are with you. And then it was great to see 2 Earth Day celebrations for cleanup. And I love that Earth and heart are spelled with the same 5 letters. So always think about that. So other than that, I'm going to enjoy the warm weather, enjoy your family and each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Munger. I'd like to hit on the members of the community, our Lakeshore family that have passed also. Want you to know that we all keep you in our prayers, you and your families. We've had several this month, and one of them I kind of knew a little bit more than the other ones, and he was a super guy. I graduated with him. I played ball with him, and he was just a wonderful man. And at 61 years old or 62, it's way too young. Just want everybody to know that you're in our prayers, Mrs. Cudney's husband and Mr. Nielsen and the many more that we have lost this year. It's heartbreaking. Move on to Saturday, May 15th and 16th. Lakeshore Student Congress is hosting a walkathon to help a Lakeshore alumni who has fallen ill, and they are trying to raise money for this. They'll be walking all day on the 16th, and I believe they'll be walking on the 15th also. So if you would like to contribute to this, support with any kind of donation, you can contact Mr. Cook, and he can steer you in the right direction. I'm sure if you called the office, Mrs. Kettlehut can steer you in the right direction also. As Dr. DePonio mentioned about our baseball city championship, that's going to be held at the Old Tiger Stadium at Michigan and Trumbull. It's $15 to get in. It's on May 22nd. Starts at 11, and Lakeshore will be playing South Lake and Lakeview, as Lakeview will be playing South Lake and Lakeshore. And the winner will take home the city pride, and hopefully the community will be out there to support that. Your $15 also gets you a t-shirt of your choice to support your school or Lakeshore. Mr. Colleen hit on the foundation golf outing. You can contact Jack Dick with that, or Mr. Colleen can probably help you with that. I think he'll be out. And Jack, I'm sure we'll all be out there supporting this. This is the first year I'll be able to join you. I'm looking forward to it. Mondays are a hard day for me, but I said, what the heck? So, the other thing I have to say is there's special recognition to a staff member at Masonic Heights, Carrie Helton. She was in her class. I believe she was filling in for the teacher at the time, and a child started choking, and she leaped into action, did the Heimlich maneuver, and saved this child's life. Yeah, it's just amazing. The other thing was the support that this child and family received from Jody Battaglia and the principal over at Masonic, Mr. Barranca, was compassionate, warm, and nothing less than being a Lakeshorian. To end it, well, listen, Mrs. Weinkoop, thank you for the presentation. I think that shows the commitment we have from everybody, and well-deserved. I mean, they have went above the call of duty for the past 13 and a half months, as Ms. DeLong has said, and it's amazing. I mean, we are a step ahead of everybody, and we should be proud. I'm very proud of all the staff, from the bus drivers to the maintenance to the everybody. You all have done an outstanding job. You all shine in my book. Pete doing all the numbers and everything, and keeping everything under control, and giving us advice when we need it, and Dr. Taponio for leading everybody. Proud to be a Shorian. And with that, I will end this meeting. Thank you very much, and can I have a motion to close? Support. Mr. Collins, motion. Mr. DeLong's support. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.